You did not grow up with money. Not the kind of money that gets passed down. Not the kind that comes up in the form of a trust document or an inheritance, or a grandparent who sat you down and explained how compound interest worked before you were old enough to understand it. You grew up in a house where money was a source of stress, where the conversation about bills happened behind closed doors, or it did not happen at all, because acknowledging the problem out loud made it feel more real than anyone could handle. Where the month was always slightly longer than the paycheck. Where getting by was the goal, because nobody around you had ever been taught that getting ahead was an option available to people like you. And now, you are here. The account has a number in it that nobody in your family's history has ever seen attached to their name. $1 million, built by your decisions, your discipline, your willingness to do things differently from everyone around you, without a map and without anyone who had walked the path before you to tell you which turns were right. You are the first, and being the first is one of the most disorienting experiences a human being can have. The moment it becomes real. There is a specific moment when it stops being a goal and starts being a reality. It is not when the account hits the number. It is a few days later, maybe a few weeks later, when you open the app and the number is still there. When you realize it did not disappear overnight. When the part of your brain that grew up watching money leave faster than it arrived finally accepts that this time it is not leaving. That moment is quieter than you expected. There is no celebration that matches the scale of what happened. The people around you do not fully understand what crossing this threshold means because they have never been close enough to it to know what it represents. You try to explain it, and the words come out wrong or they land in the wrong place, and you realize that this is the first of many things you will experience alone that you cannot fully share. You call your mother. You do not tell her the number. You have learned by now that the number changes things in ways you are not ready to manage with everyone at once. You just tell her things are going well. She says she is proud of you. You hang up and sit with something that is part pride and part grief, and part a feeling you do not have a name for yet. What nobody prepares you for. The financial education around becoming a millionaire focuses almost entirely on the mechanics. Save this percentage, invest in this vehicle, avoid this mistake. The mechanics matter. The mechanics are real. But the mechanics are not the hard part for the first-generation wealth builder. The hard part is the psychology. You have spent your entire life operating inside a scarcity framework. Money was finite. It ran out. The goal was to hold on to what you had long enough to cover what you owed. That framework did not disappear when the number changed. It is still running in the background of every financial decision you make. You still feel guilty spending money on yourself. Not a little guilty. Genuinely, physically uncomfortable in a way that makes no rational sense given what the account says. You walk past something you could easily afford, and your brain runs the old calculation. Can I justify this? Do I really need this? What if something comes up? Before you have even consciously decided to consider the purchase. You still check the account more than you need to. Not because you were anxious about the balance, because the checking
is a habit built from years of needing to know whether the rent was going to clear. The anxiety that produced the habit is gone. The habit remains. You still say no to things you could say yes to. Vacations, experiences, investments in your own comfort and health and life quality that you have technically been able to afford for longer than you have been allowing yourself to access them. The permission to spend is harder to develop than the money was to save, because saving was mechanical. Permission is psychological, and no amount of financial discipline teaches you how to give yourself permission to benefit from what you built. This is the scarcity mindset. It is not a moral failing. It is the logical output of growing up in an environment where scarcity was real. The mind adapted to the conditions it was raised in. The conditions changed. The mind is catching up.
The family shift. You noticed it gradually, then all at once. The family dynamics that existed before the money are not the same family dynamics that exist after it. Not because you changed the way you treat people, because the people around you cannot help relating to a different version of you than the one they knew when you had nothing. The first thing you notice is the requests. They do not arrive dramatically. They arrive the way water enters a room, slowly at first, through small gaps, and then suddenly everywhere. A cousin needs help with rent. A sibling has a business idea. A parent has a bill that came out of nowhere. An aunt mentions in passing that things have been hard lately, in a tone that is not quite asking, but is absolutely asking. You help. Of course you help. You came from these people. Their struggle is not abstract to you. You remember sitting in the same financial position they are sitting in now, and you know what it feels like, and you have the means to make it feel different for them. And so you do. And then it happens again, and again, and the amounts get larger, and the frequency increases, and the stories become more elaborate. And you start to notice that the help you are giving is not building anything for the people receiving it. It is extending a comfortable enough situation that removes the urgency that might otherwise produce change. You are not a villain for noticing this. You are not selfish for recognizing that generosity without structure is not generosity. It is a liability that you are servicing indefinitely, with no return and no endpoint. The hardest conversation you will have in your first years of significant wealth is not with an investor or a bank or a tax authority. It is with a family member who expected the help to continue and found out it was not going to. That conversation will test something in you that no amount of financial preparation could have prepared you for.
The loneliness of the first. There is a specific loneliness that comes with being the first in your family to cross a significant financial threshold. It is not the loneliness of having no one around. Your life is full of people. It is the loneliness of navigating something that none of them have navigated, and therefore none of them can guide you through. Every decision you make at this level is a first. The first time you have to think about tax strategy at this scale. The first time you have to decide whether to invest in real estate or equities or both. The first time you have to think about estate planning and what happens to what you have built if something happens to you. The first time you have to think about whether to tell anyone what you have or how much. You make these decisions without the benefit of a parent who did it before you, without a grandparent whose estate plan you can use as a model, without family wisdom that was passed down through generations about how people like you manage money at this level. Because people like you did not manage money at this level. You are the first person like you to be in this position. The decisions are not impossibly difficult. They are available. Advisors exist, information exists, resources exist. But accessing them requires knowing that they exist, and knowing how to evaluate them, and knowing which questions to ask. And none of that knowledge was transmitted to you at the dinner table growing up, because no one at that table had ever needed it. You learn. You always learn. But the learning has a cost, in time, in mistakes, in the occasional advisor who sees your inexperience as an opportunity rather than a responsibility. The first-generation wealthy person
Is a target for a specific kind of predation that the person who grew up with wealth is protected from by the network and the knowledge that was passed down to them. You have the wealth. You are building the network. You are acquiring the knowledge. But for a period of time, you are navigating the gap between those two realities. What you owe and what you don't. The question of obligation is the one that will follow you longest. What do you owe your family? What do you owe your community? What do you owe the people who supported you when you had nothing and who need something now that you have more than enough? There is no clean answer. Anyone who gives you a clean answer is not taking the question seriously enough. What is true is that you did not build this alone. The people who kept you fed when you could not feed yourself, who believed in you when the outcome was not certain, who created the conditions in which you could develop the discipline and the drive that eventually produced this, those people have a claim on your gratitude that is real and worth honoring. What is also true is that gratitude and financial obligation are not the same thing. You can be deeply grateful for everything someone gave you without that gratitude translating into an unlimited financial commitment to whatever they need for the rest of their lives. Gratitude is a feeling. Financial obligation is a contract. Confusing the two helps no one and eventually compromises the wealth itself. The framework that most first-generation wealthy people eventually develop is some version of this: help people build capacity rather than extend dependency. A gift that solves a problem permanently is generosity. A payment that solves the same problem every month indefinitely is a subscription that does not serve either party. Pay for education. Pay for tools. Pay for opportunities that create independence rather than maintaining reliance. Set the help up so that the help eventually becomes unnecessary. That is generosity with structure. That is the version that honors where you came from without sacrificing where you are going.
Building the second generation. The most important thing you will ever do with the wealth is not grow it. It is transmit it. Not the money, the framework, the understanding, the relationship with money that took you a lifetime of scarcity to build and that you now have the opportunity to install in the next generation before they ever experience the scarcity that built it in you. Your children, or the children in your family, or the young people in your community who are watching what you do with what you have, do not need to be told that you are wealthy. They need to be taught what wealth actually is. They need to understand that the number is the output of a framework, that the framework is the real inheritance, that the number without the framework disappears within a generation in almost every family that builds it and fails to transmit the knowledge alongside the capital. The statistics on generational wealth are not encouraging. 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation. 90% lose it by the third. The pattern is not random. It is the predictable result of transmitting the number without transmitting the understanding. You have the opportunity to break that pattern. Not by locking the money in a trust that prevents the next generation from accessing it, by building the financial literacy, the discipline, the relationship with money as a tool rather than an identity in the people who will come after you before they need. That is the real work of being the first. Not accumulating, translating. Taking everything you learned the hard way and finding a way to give it to the people who come next so they do not have to learn it the same way. Who you are now. You are still the person who grew up in that house, the one where money was stress and getting by was the goal. That person did not disappear when the number changed. But you are also someone new. Someone who proved that the financial ceiling your environment suggested was available to you was not the actual ceiling. Someone who built something that your parents could not build, and their parents could not build, and every generation before them could not build. Not because they were less capable, but because the knowledge and the access and the accumulated advantage that makes wealth possible were not available to them the way they became available to you. You are the turning point in your family's financial history. Every generation before you was the before. Every generation after you is the after. The line runs through you. That is not a burden. That is the most meaningful financial achievement available to a human being. Not the accumulation itself, the breaking of a pattern that would otherwise have continued indefinitely. You did not just make money. You changed the story.
The things worth remembering. The scarcity mindset will not serve you at this level, but it built you. The hunger and the discipline and the refusal to accept the ceiling that your environment suggested, those came from growing up in a place where enough was never guaranteed. You do not need to keep living in scarcity to honor what scarcity produced in you. The family will adjust or it will not. Some of them will rise to meet the new version of your relationship. Some of them will not be able to. The ones who cannot are not villains. They are people operating from a framework that does not yet include the concept of someone like you existing in their family. Give them time, set your limits, and let the relationship be what it is capable of being, rather than what you wish it could be. The loneliness is real, and it is temporary. The network of people who have navigated what you are navigating exists. Finding them is one of the most valuable investments you can make with the early years of significant wealth. Not for the financial advice alone, for the experience of being understood by someone who has stood where you are standing. The obligation is real, and it has a structure. You came from people. You owe them your love and your presence and your genuine commitment to their well-being. You do not owe them unlimited access to the capital. Those are different things. And the work of transmission is the most important work you will do. More important than the next investment, more important than the tax strategy, more important than the estate plan. Getting the framework into the next generation, the understanding, the discipline, the relationship with money as a tool, that is what turns a single generation of wealth into a dynasty. You are the first. You will not be the last. Build accordingly.